If you are looking at the news at all right now, you'll probably have seen that MIT has a brand new shocking study that shows that almost 12% of workers are replaceable in America by AI. So, headline after headline that you can see here, if you just look up MIT Iceberg report, you're going to see the most depressing news of all time. And this isn't new. AI has been creating opportunities for the media to make maximum shock value depressing news for a long time now. For example, if you remember only a tiny while ago, there was this report about buy now, pay later company Klarna that replaced 700 of its workers in customer support and is now wanting them to come back because it turned out that failed. And when they couldn't get enough workers at once, this wonderful headline is company replaces customer support with AI, then panics and forces engineers to work the phones as the AI fails. They are literally trying to use software engineers and marketers at Klarna to support the AI customer support agents while they figure out how to, fix this kind of AI human workforce replacement fiasco that they're in. But are these two reports actually conflicting? Like MIT on the one hand is predicting that, yes, we're going to replace the workforce by 12%, or at least that's what the news is saying MIT is saying. That's very critical. And then on the other hand, we have this massive, highly funded fintech company that replaced its AI workers and then is its workers with AI, sorry, although I guess they are replacing their AI workers too, and is now trying to bring back all the humans. Do these conflict? And the answer is kind of no. Why? Because the MIT Iceberg reports that all of these are, news reports are talking about is actually not saying that there's going to be a replacement, and they're not making any predictions. So what is the MIT Project Iceberg report? Let's first go to the website itself here and look at their own description. The iceberg models coordination in human and AI populations. So what they're really trying to do is they're trying to build a model that helps us understand how AI agents and humans will coordinate together in a system and see how the outcomes will play out in the economy and in various other ideas. It's called a large population model, an LPM. And unlike the large language models, the LLMs that we use like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, LPMs, the large population models, are meant to help us understand how populations of people and agents move in a system. And this is something that large language models can't do. So I have this article here by the MIT Media Lab, and I'll put all these links in the description below so you can see them, or above, depending on where you're watching this. And the idea is essentially that they want to understand what's going to happen as people start interacting, but it's a simulation. It's not a prediction. And there are many, many, many small things that are important to keep in mind about this. For example, from their own FAQ, if I go down here, the iceberg index does not reflect job displacement. It reflects skill overlap. That is important. It does not estimate job loss, workforce reductions, adoption timelines, or net employment effects, because it cannot capture things like employer adoption decisions, regulatory factors, economic incentives, or social acceptance. All of the things that we saw happen to Klarna. And MIT themselves also had a report that had this shocking headline by the news articles that says 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are failing. Although in the actual report by MIT, they say 95% of organizations are getting zero return. Depending on how the companies calculate that and what returns actually are, again, there's a big gap between what the media is saying and what the report itself says. So twice right now, MIT has kind of been misquoted, once for saying that 95% of deployments are failing, and another time for saying that 12% of the workforce will be replaced. But MIT is never saying those things that the news is saying. In fact, they're saying usually much more nuanced things. So how are we supposed to understand all these things? There are a variety of ways. First, for the 12% workforce replacement, what we can understand is that there is 12% of the technical skills that are done in the workforce can potentially be done by AI in the conditions that are in the LPM, the iceberg model that MIT created. And that might mean that there is an indicator for potential displacement over time when the different economic, social, and other factors around this start to change. But what they can never predict is how these agents might be creating problems that then need fixing, what kinds of new jobs might get created to fix those problems, or to create other things that humans want that maybe an AI cannot create, like a human to human connection, or like technical issues that we've yet to discover. And then the other thing about this 95% getting zero return, it does say not too far down in the report that just 5% of integrated AI pilots are extracting millions in value, while the majority remain stuck with no measurable profits and losses impact. This does not mean that these companies aren't learning how to get better at that. This does not mean that the AI systems are providing zero value. It just means that we don't know. And the 12% also means that we kind of don't understand how much could be replaced, but what is going to be required to get that replacement to happen is so much more complex than the model can predict. There are small things that are interesting to note. For example, there are increasingly more and more studies coming out saying that when we try and do brainstorming with AI, for example, even though the results can seem better at first, there is a significant negative effect on the diversity of ideas for collaboration between humans and GenAI. This is something, for example, that the large population model that talks about what technical skills can currently be replaced is not capturing, because it's very hard to capture diversity of ideas without actually witnessing people reacting to the real problems in the real world. So does this mean that the MIT report is useless? Absolutely not. The Iceberg model is actually very, very interesting. In the paper that they have published, if you want to take time to read it, by clicking on the link in the description, you will see that what they're trying to figure out is how, on the surface, we have only seen 2.2% of technical skills replaced in the actual workforce by artificial intelligence, or at least adoption. So it's not just replacement, it could be collaboration. Whereas their model is predicting that there is yet another 9.5% of skills that is not yet captured. And so, could these be replaced? That's kind of the question. And what would it take for that to happen? It is not a prediction. Again, please refer to their own FAQ. They're not predicting this. They're just trying to create a model for us to try and understand that. And there's a lot of interesting data in this paper as well, if you take the time to read that can help us understand where the risks might happen and what governments can do to help mitigate some of the damages that might happen if we start to see private corporations, do this mass kind of replacement. And this report is part of MIT's larger project to try and understand the invisible economy, the people who we cannot see, the agents who are doing replacements at the low level in jobs that are, usually invisible to us, things like finance, things like backroom processes, operations, and not just the customer facing stuff or the creative, sexy stuff that we keep reading about. And as part of this invisible economy research that they're doing, they're genuinely concerned about the sovereignty of companies and countries and workers being able to figure out how the data that's moving around between all these agents can be controlled by people with bad intentions or by AIs that we don't understand. And so this is not just a way for MIT to create some media buzz around the number of people who will be replaced by jobs. It is a research project that's trying to understand what may happen if rampant automation goes completely uncontrolled by our government and by us. So that's it. That's what this report says. No, MIT is not making a prediction. They are not prophets. They are just doing research using statistical models or simulations, and they're trying to make guesses about how humans and AI agents will coordinate and collaborate in the future. So thank you for watching, and if you're interested to, do this reading for yourself, I've put all the links in the side of the browser here in the description below. Thank you.